All right.
Ooh, by continuing to be in this meeting, you are consented to be recorded. Okay.
All right. All right. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us on Member Spotlight. And we have Jorie Bernhardt, who's going to be our member and staff spotlight, let's say, for today. So Jorie, how you doing?
How are you?
Doing well. You know, waking up, as you and I both discussed pre-filming, having our coffee, trying to survive another day, right? Yep. Here we go. Coffees. We didn't plan that, people, honestly. It just happened. So anyways, so in this time, we sort of take a moment to highlight people with the congregation, sort of see how they're doing. Also for you, I know some people haven't probably been able to see you as much as of late, unless you are one of our young families and have been coming to programming for them. So I figure this would be a nice time for people to sort of catch up with you and see how you've been doing during the craziness of the world.
Yeah.
So I guess sort of starting, so how long have you worked for Temple of Aaron?
It is hard to believe because it feels like yesterday that we moved here, but this is my 4th year.
Wow, that is, yeah, right. Time flies. It's really kind of nuts how quickly it goes. April and I were saying the same thing just the other day. Like, how have we been here for now? This is the beginning of our 3rd year. I guess it's less of the beginning because we're in September, but you know.
What is time?
Yeah.
What is time in the void?
Right. Time is really is relative. I have a new appreciation for that understanding.
Yep.
And so, of course, from being at Temple of Aaron for 4 years now, you've seen lots of different programs, whether stuff that you've been in charge of, stuff that we've done sort of as a team. And I'm curious, sort of, what's sort of your fondest memory or fondest program that you maybe have been a part of or have seen that you've really enjoyed?
Yeah, we have done so much programming. It's so hard to pick a favorite because there's so many different aspects of my job and so many hats that I wear. I love doing the plays because I get to know our teens so much better. And even though that it's like this intense, stressful time, it's also a really fun bonding moment for our teens and to see them come together and be proud of the production that they put on. And also to work with different directors. It's just really, really fun. And always working with Ellie is fun. Last year, I absolutely loved our Shabbat school curriculum of the 1st through 4th graders learning about Jewish communities around the world. And I just loved seeing how engaged they were getting with that. I've always loved doing my 5 senses programs because, again, that's just engaging families at the earliest level, and it's incorporating my museum background and doing something very different. Purim is always a fun, spectacular, and I think that we just have a good time. So I have a really hard time picking a favorite because I think we do so much different and fun programming, and everything is just great in different ways.
Right. Yeah, no, we do a ton of different programs, like all the ones you mentioned, and countless others that, of course, we've been a part of to try and help create and help run for the community. And you're right, though. There's something special about being in a play when you're in USY. I've shared this with other people, but my parents, since they had been here, that was something that they brought with them when they moved to St. Louis. And so we started doing plays at my father's congregation there, all because they had seen the plays that Temple of Aaron had done. And so I know that that's a special sort of bond. And of course, 5 Senses for us was very special as well because of Aria, but also because, you know, you were, I think, running your Passover one for the first time really when we were here interviewing. And so that's always been something sort of special for us. And of course, it's fun to see kids at that young age sort of engage with Judaism in a new way. And so things are obviously different. I mean, we're doing this through Zoom. We are doing Zoom classes this year for the school. And so there are lots of things that we're sort of missing, that maybe that in-person aspect of things. But as I've realized during the pandemic, there are some things I didn't anticipate missing that I now have been missing. And so the one that I often give is that now with everyone wearing masks, I sort of miss the idea of being able to see somebody's mouth when like you're sort of passing them, because usually a smile or something is a nonverbal cue to say hello. Don't really have that. I also miss not having my glasses fogged up when I have to wear a mask and sunglasses. I miss that. But I'm curious if there's something that you are missing that you didn't anticipate missing.
I just miss the simplicity of going places. And I think that like I took a little bit of that for granted. And part of that is I think it's just very different for us to go anywhere. But like in general, but in a pandemic, and especially with the rules of our bubble, we do a lot of thinking before we go anywhere. And it just requires a lot of thought. And I haven't been to a grocery store since March, February. And it's like just the simplicity of going to a Trader Joe's or a Target. Now, I bet we are saving a ton of money by me not going to a Target and being enticed by everything. And same with Trader Joe's, because those are the two places. I just miss traveling. I thought about like we've gotten takeout from restaurants that I used to have lunch meetings at. And I think about, I miss just not having to pre-plan every single interaction outside of our bubble, and it was more spontaneous.
Yeah, I think I was talking with somebody, and I think the really great word that they used was sort of intentionality, and that everything that we do, you have to have sort of like this attention and intention, like of what you're doing, and like you're right. Like I mean, April ran out of the house the other day, and she came back minute later very out of breath because she had gone down the stairs without her mask, and it was just like something so like simple that she was like, oh, I have to run back and get it. Of course she had to run back and get it, and she knew that, but it was still just like, you can't just be like, oh, I'm just gonna run downstairs real quick and without thinking about walking out your door with a mask. And so yeah, it was a simpler time on so many levels, but really just being able to just grab your keys and go out the door is something that I think is interesting to think about missing. And so since we, and a lot of us in varying stages have been maybe going out more, not going out more, and that meant we were in a lot more. And so when we were in a lot more, something that's been very popular has been binge watching. It was popular before the pandemic, but people jokingly say they finished Netflix and now they're moving on to a new platform. And so I'm curious if there's anything that you've binge watched, whether it be a TV show or there was a movie that you like have been wanting to see and just hadn't been able to. I've gone through lots of different things. Like I can't even believe, like I remember I binge watched Sourdough all like in 2 weeks, 3 weeks. And then I was like, now thinking about that seems like it was so long ago. And so I'm curious what you might have binge watched that you would recommend or maybe not recommend.
Okay, so I have binge watched some pretty interesting things, and part of that was that for a period of time, I basically had a baby attached to me like 24/7. So I watched a lot of random things on Netflix. One of my peak 2020 Netflix recommendations would be Tiger King, because Tiger King has everything. And as it progresses, you keep like thinking and shifting your mindset that it's got to get like not as weird. This is not a show to watch with your family, just putting it out there, not for your kids. So that was probably like my lowest of the low, but it was the most peak 2020 Netflix recommendation. People might be surprised, but I binge watched The Last Dance because I lived through that Chicago Bulls era and I had a lot of those memories. I tried to rewatch The Americans because I loved that show and I figured give that a try. It's like I used to watch a lot of House Hunters because it was just like mindless, fun TV, but there's nothing live, so I haven't done that. I watch a lot of animal shows, crime documentaries.
Yeah, I do that a lot. I really get into that. I also when I just like, I'm a person who sometimes likes to have just background noise. Sometimes that's music, sometimes that's TV. I just kind of grew up like with being able to do that. And my like big thing is Law and Order, and like Law and Order SVU, which I think is on season 1000. It seems like it's been around forever. And that's been on, and I've had that on the background. And yeah, Tiger King, I will also admit, was my low moment. I was like, in the middle of March and April, I was like, I'm not going to do it. I don't care that I'm locked in my house. I am not going to go down this path. And then one day I was like, all right, I'm going to watch one. Like, let me just sort of see. And you're right. Like,
you can't just watch one. You can't.
It's terrible. It's Pandora's box. Like when you open one of it and you're just like, all right, yeah, sure. No,
you just delve in. And I feel like Netflix may have released that show as like, listen, we're going to make this fun because you're all stuck in your houses and let's make stay-at-home fun. And here's this
yeah, it's crazy. And then I hit the low moment because I also watched like the Joe McHale, like after the Tiger King, like had finished being shown.
Oh, I haven't watched that yet.
Oh yeah, definitely do that because he talks with all of like the people who are there and is like, so how are you doing now? And it's just like, and he's in his house and they're in the middle of pandemic and they're like, huh. It is interesting. I wonder if it would have been as popular if we weren't stuck in our houses, right? Like how it's become like an instant cult classic.
And the real shame is that there are so many amazing Halloween costumes that could come out. Yeah. And spoiler alert, I have a feeling that Halloween is going to be very different this year.
Oh yes, most definitely. Most definitely. But the thing that's also people have done, and you alluded to the fact that you haven't gone to a Target, so maybe Aaron is happy that you're not coming with all these fun little toys back. But that doesn't mean that you still can't shop because as we know, Amazon is just a click away. And so people I know have been buying random things that are like, you know what? I could use that type of specialty mop. Sure, why not? Or this other set of knives looks really nice and I could use a new set. So I'm curious if there's any purchase that's really kind of strange or random, or maybe a best purchase that you've made thus far during pandemic.
And I'm trying to think because I know that we've bought a lot of baby things and I feel like Amazon is targeted to parents at 3 a.m. whose child is not sleeping and you're looking for like the cure. But I feel like I've done pretty well of not doing 3 a.m. purchases. I know we had our Instant Pot before the pandemic. Highly recommend an Instant Pot. I'm like trying to think, what have we bought that I'd been thinking about actually getting a Soda Stream. I haven't.
Nice.
I haven't decided because I have gotten into drinking sparkling water and I'm like, maybe it's better to get a Soda Stream. Haven't purchased it yet. You know what, if you would like to convince me, anybody watching, to get a Soda Stream, call me up, let's talk.
Soda Streams are the best. I had one for a while and then I just got lazy and didn't get a refill for the cartridge to make it.
Our fun thing that we're doing right now is going through my pre-pandemic panic buys of like, why did we buy this food? And it's like, how did we end up with like lentil, like those microwavable Tasty Bite lentil packets, or like the rice, or like random cans of fruit? And it's like, I panicked.
Right? Yeah, no,
we don't have like, I bought like 4 cans, not like 20, but still.
Yeah. The first month was something else in terms of what people decided to buy and try and hold on to. I definitely have seen plenty of like dry beans and stuff that are like in the back of and I was like, why did we buy this? We have not opened it yet and still see it.
Winter is coming. That's all I have to say.
Oh yes, it is. I know it's going to be here sooner than we realize. Thank you, Farmer's Almanac, for the wetter and cold, but not too cold projections. I don't even really know what that means. Well, that's good. Not making too many random purchases. I bought a lot of things. I bought stuff for the dog, getting the puppy. So that was like, okay, I'll do this. But yeah, but baby toys are fun. It's fun shopping for baby toys. Sometimes but half the time then they realize they would be happy with just any little thing that makes noise. Yeah. Baby toys are more for parents, I think, too, also, like thinking that their child would like this. Yeah. And so then the other thing is people have been trying to get new hobbies or skills maybe, or sort of leaning into things that they've done beforehand. So I'm curious, did you go down the sourdough bread train and decide to try making your own sourdough, or did you do anything else? I've started to infuse alcohol, which is like sort of random that I've been doing, and I'm doing with flavors for the holiday season, as it were. So I have a pomegranate one right now, but you know, random things that you're like, sure, I could do this and pass some time. So is there anything you've been doing?
So in terms of sourdough, I've had a sourdough culture going in my fridge since 2015. So I've been into sourdough, but I had to take a break because I could not do it well, especially sourdough is very time intensive, and actually I need to feed my sourdough culture because it's probably hungry. The new skill that I've acquired, so I'm really grateful that my remote office is at my in-laws' house, and they are taking care of my child while I am working, and they have a very lovely espresso machine. And so I have learned how to make espresso drinks that you have to grind the coffee and you have to tamper it down, and then you have to load it. And I've learned how to make Americanos, both hot and iced, and lattes, both hot and iced. So yeah, coffee.
There you go. That's a great skill to have, as you know, and you, as I said, you've become a barista, and look at that. That's impressive. But yeah.
You know, I just have to start up my sourdough baking again, and between my coffee and my baked goods, you know, I could look up cottage food license laws. There we go.
There you go. Wouldn't that be fun? And then, but yeah, no, and you were ahead of the trend, you know, that was of sourdough. I remember it seemed like every minute I saw a new person popping up with sourdough. And so that was just an interesting thing about a trend, but you were a trendsetter, being ahead of the game by 5 years.
Yeah, I'm a sourdough hipster, I guess, but
yeah.
There is a sourdough baking Facebook group that I was a part of before this pandemic all happened. And oh my gosh, the influx of people into this group going, help me, help me. And I'm just like, if you have never made bread before, don't start with sourdough, start with something easier, because sourdough is really hard and it's time consuming, and it is not, it should not be your first foray into bread baking.
Yeah, sourdough is complicated, and it is interesting that people are like, sure, I'll start with something very difficult. That sounds logical.
Right. I mean, I get it, because like yeast and flour, my favorite thing was like the pictures of like empty shelves, and it was like people were just buying random flour alternatives and had no idea what to do with them. It's like, this isn't gonna work.
Right. Yeah. No, it is amusing sort of how that all happened out. Well, all right, Joy. Well, thank you so much for being on the member and staff spotlight, we'll call it, for this edition. And thank you again, and enjoy your coffee and your espresso. And everyone, thank you for watching the member spotlight. Have a nice rest of your day.
Yeah. Thank you so much.